Yo, what's up? It's FreakyDude99, and today I have a fantastic archunter build for you. Season of the Witch is here, and with it came a buff to Lucky Raspberry that, to say the least, is really strong. Personally, I'm a big fan of Shinobu's Vow and grenade buffing exotics in general, so this one already appealed to me, but it needed that extra power to really make it worth using, and let me just say that with this season, it certainly has that power now. Of course, with all my builds, there's a picture at the end, along with the dim link in the description for easy copying. Without further ado, let's jump into the build. Starting off in the subclass, we have Gathering Storm as our super ability. While casting, you have 90% damage resist, and you hurl an arc staff that sticks in and deals direct impact damage, then a secondary lightning strike damage, followed by lingering tick damage and jolt applying. Jolt releases chain lightning for 10 seconds, dealing damage to all targets within 8 meters upon taking damage. It has a 0.8 second delay after applying before the chain lightning can trigger, and this is what also stuns overload champions. We're of course taking Gambler's Dodge, which refreshes our melee ability while within 15 meters of an enemy. It also removes tracking from projectiles fired by enemies like those fallen Arcbolts. Next, our melee ability is Combination Blow. Takedowns refresh class ability and heal some HP, also grants a stack of Combination Blow, which increases melee damage by 60% and stacks up to 3 times. This is a multiplier stacking, so at 3 times stacks, it's a 60% times 60% times 60% increase to melee damage. For a grenade, we of course have Arcbolt Grenade as we're using Lucky Raspberry. When you throw it down, it targets the closest enemy within 8 meters and then chains lightning up to 3 times from that enemy. Onto our first aspect, we have Flow State. Defeating an enemy affected by Jolt grants Amplified. While Amplified, we gain 200% additional class ability regen, plus 50 reload speed, and 0.8 times reload duration multiplier, along with 66% damage resist while dodging. This is in addition to what Amplified does already, which is grant plus 50 to mobility, 33% increased slide distance, 40 handling, and 0.95 times handling duration multiplier for 15 seconds. You also gain the speed booster effect, which makes forward movement speed equal to sprint speed times 12.5%, and it also increases slide distance by 50%, jump height by 25%, and 15% damage resist against enemies after sprinting for 2.5 seconds. This persists even after Amplified ends, and there's a 2-second window before Sprint Booster expires after you stop sprinting. And for our second aspect is Lethal Current, which makes melee hits on jolted enemies blind them, which stuns unstoppable champions. After using your dodge, your melee lunge distance is increased, and your next melee hit applies jolt and creates an aftershock to enemies within 5 to 6 meters. After dodging, Lethal Current lasts for 10 seconds or until next melee hit. Moving on to the fragments, we of course have Spark of Shock, so our Arcbolt applies jolt on every enemy hit by the chain. We got Spark of Discharge, so arc weapon final blows can spawn Ionic Traces after 2 to 3 takedowns. Ionic Traces seek towards you and grant 12.5% grenade and melee energy and 15% class ability energy. We got Spark of Resistance, which gives 25% damage resist while within 15 meters of at least 3 enemies. This effect lingers for 2 seconds. And then Spark of Ion, so defeating jolted enemies creates an Ionic Trace. This effect is on a 10-second cooldown. And that wraps up the subclass and onto the weapons. As with any arc build, we still have plenty of great exotics to choose from. Cold Heart is able to spawn Ionic Traces rapidly for more ability energy and provide some heavy damage when focused. Centrifuge is able to blind targets with ease, and it's anti-barrier this season. Delicate Tomb can be picked up again as there is unstoppable fusion rifles this season, and it creates Ionic Traces and can cause jolt. Exdirus is a brand new grenade launcher, and it can cause some heavy damage with all the moths you create. And of course, Thunderlord is a powerhouse when it comes to arc builds, and of course it has intrinsic overload, so it just is an amazing weapon to have on this build as well. As for legendary weapons, you want to be running something that can apply jolt very often, so Ikelos SMG, Path of Least Resistance, and Iterative Loop are my favorite weapons to run, as they have the power to clear through ads and proc Volt Shot rapidly, as well as they're all craftable. Your loadouts can be swapped around quite a bit with this build, so don't be afraid to try out some arc weapons you might have avoided up until now. And with the weapons picked, let's move on to the artifact perks. First column, we can grab 4 anti-champion mods. These overcharge for the 25% damage buff and overcharged activities like legend or harder content. Even if I run something like Wishender, I put on anti-barrier bows so I get that buff. Second column, we grab Origin perk specialization 1, so Origin traits are enhanced on weapons from Neomuna, Crota's End, Season of the Witch, and Deep. We also have Origin perk specialization 2, so those same weapons receive the overcharge buff. We have Elemental Orb's Arc, so our Arc weapon Final Blows eventually spawn an Arc Orb that can be picked up and thrown to apply Jolt. And then for the fourth column, we grab Overload Machine Guns, even if we have Thunderlord, so we can get that overcharge buff. We get Elemental Fury, so stun champions receive 35% more ability damage and 70% more Elemental Orb damage. And then we grab Communal Pickup, so on ally interaction with an Elemental Orb we create, we get a ×3 Arc Weapon Surge, which is a 22% damage increase. And then, of course, we grab Monochromatic Maestro, so Arc Weapon damage will increase Arc Ability damage by 10%, and Arc Ability damage increases Arc Weapon damage by 10%. And then finally, Elemental Munitions makes enemy takedowns with an Elemental Orb have a 20 to 33% chance to spawn a special or heavy ammo finder brick. Chances are independent, so both bricks can spawn at once, and with an Arc Orb, the Jolt doesn't count towards an Elemental Orb takedown, so the ammo won't spawn off the Jolt proccing. And that does it for the artifact perks. Moving on to the Armour Mods. Starting out with the helmet, we have Ashes to Assets, so we get more super energy on grenade takedowns depending on the tier of enemy. We have Font of Wisdom for a +30 in intellect while we have an armor charge. Armor charges decay at every 10 seconds. And then Harmonic Siphon, so every 2 arc weapon final blows we spawn an orb of power. Quickly touching on stat focusing, we want resilience at 100 so we get a 30% damage resist. Secondly, we want discipline at its highest so we can throw our grenade as much as possible. And then finally, mobility so we can be dodging as much as possible and be getting our combination blow back. Over to the gauntlets, we have focusing strike, so we get 20% dodge energy on melee hit. This is just in case we ever lose our dodge or our combination blow when we need to get it back. We have impact induction, so we get 20% grenade energy on melee hit. And then we have heavy handed, so our melee takedowns spawn orbs of power. For the chest piece, we have the exotic Lucky Raspberry, which comes with the perk Probability Matrix. Arcbolt Grenades are enhanced and can chain up to 4 times from 3, as well as they cause disruption, which stuns overload champions. In addition, upon triggering Jolt chain damage, get 20% grenade energy, and on Ionic Trace pickup, get an additional 5% Arcbolt Grenade energy. For the mods, we grab double elemental resist to match the activity's threat modifier, so arc threat means put on a double arc resist, and then follow it with a third resist mod that's different from the first 2, something like concussive dampener or even another solar resist. Down to the legs, we have arc weapon surge for a 10% increase to arc weapon damage with an armor charge. Innervation gives 10% grenade energy on orb of power pickup, and then recuperation gives a health bump on orb pickup. And lastly, for the class item, we get 10% grenade energy on dodge from Bomber, and then we have 2 Font of Restorations for a +50 in recovery while we have an armor charge. And that does it for the build, but let's break down the specifics of how it works and plays. This is a great ability spam build, of course revolving around your Arcbolt Grenade and using it as much as possible. With you getting 20% grenade energy on Jolt Chain and 17.5% grenade energy on Ionic Trace, it means you can get it back real quick as pretty much everything in this build applies Jolt or gets you an Ionic Trace. This of course makes it one of the best ad clear builds in the game and makes it absolutely perfect for the season's new content, Altars of Summoning. You can also stun overload champions with jolts and unstoppable champions by punching them while they're jolted to blind them. This makes it so harder content isn't a worry, and with so many different weapons to choose from with this build, it becomes a powerhouse against anything you take it into. With this build, you have so much survivability with all the damage resist stacking on each other, plus your combination blow takedowns heal you and spawn an orb of power, which also heals you. There isn't much that this build can't do, and I'm sure that you'll have a blast trying it out yourself. Of course, there's a picture on screen if you need it, along with a dim link in the description for easy reference. Make sure to subscribe and give this video a like if you enjoyed it and you want to see more. I have been FreakyDude99, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, everyone.